Yeah, it's on.
Is it really?
Yeah. Heyo, it's Drew here. I figure I'll keep up these deep dive videos because it gives me a chance to really analyze what I need to work on and what I'm doing well, what parts of my trainings I need to focus on, and what parts of my training that I'm doing well at. So I just got back from a match down in Boaz at the Alabama Firearms Academy, or AFA. Always a super fun match. The stages are particularly challenging, and this time I was talking to Jeremy, who designed these stages for half the bays, and they particularly mirrored certain stages that we will have at the upcoming Alabama Championship match. So it also serves as practice for an upcoming big match. So that's really cool. Overall, I was very inconsistent this match. For stages 1 and 3, I performed very well, but for stages 2, 4, and 5, it was just a complete mess. So with that said, let's take a deeper dive into it.
Are you ready? Stand by. Oh yeah, it happens.
I was in Squad 2, which started on Bay 2, so it made the stage order Stage 2, Stage 1, Stage 3, then Stage 4. And my performance in Stage 2 was an absolute debacle. I didn't get much of a walkthrough. I was loading ammo, and then I got to the stage late and all that. So I really did not have a stage plan in my head, and what stage plan I did have broke down later on in it. And it was just a mess, an absolute mess. I was 13th overall with 4.69% of first place's score. Had 14 alphas, 4 charlies, 5 mics, 1 no-shoot, and 2 FTSAs, failure to shoot ats. So I could just completely miss 2 targets, and it still took me 23.4 seconds. I had a hit factor of 0.25. It was 74% of the total score. So just an absolute wreck, but we'll go ahead and go through it.
Are you ready? Stand by.
So just looking over my draw was pretty good. It was nice and fast. I react really quickly. If you notice where my head goes, where my eyes go, I immediately look at where I need to start slowing down once I stop moving really quickly. So it's sprint, and then stop. I engage both of the bowling pins very well. I hit them both without any makeup shots. Bop, bop. And here's where everything just starts falling apart. I decide, since my stage plan in my head was just gone, it didn't exist, I was just going to shoot everything I saw and hope I hit everything. So I just kind of stand there shooting all the targets I can see. Then I remember that shooting and moving is a thing. So on the last target, through the wall over here, I decided, I might as well shoot and move. So I do that. Run all the way to the side. Miss a bowling pin twice. Here, you can see me just kind of looking, trying to remember which targets I'd hit, eventually give up and just execute the last part of what's, remains of the stage plan that was in my head. Then I realized which the 2 targets I failed to hit and just kind of accepted it. So this stage was just a complete wash. Not really worth spending a whole lot more time here. So I just decided this one was gone. My overall performance was donezo. So let's just treat the rest of the match like practice. I'm going to shoot as fast as I can while calling my shots and focusing on movement.
Stand by. Are you ready? Stand by. Yes. If you are finished unloading, still clear. It's clear, hammer down holster. Nice run through.
I'm very proud of the way that I shot stage 1. Stage 1 and 3 particularly. I was just a fan of the way that I approached them. My performance was very good. And let's just see what happens. I find my dot immediately to begin with. The only critique I have on these first set of targets is that I think I was tracking the dot through the gun because of the way I see my head move towards the very last target that I engage. See it right there? How my head seems to move before my hand, or my hand seemed to move before my head does. Where I do good exiting that is, while I could have leaned into it and exited faster, I do make sure to look and see exactly where I need to start slowing down, and I put all my weight on my outside foot and push off of it really quickly. So I get a pretty acceptable exit. It could have been faster by leaning into it as I engaged the last target, but oh well. One of the things in my head that I was trying not to do is I was trying to make sure that I didn't hit the wall with my body. A couple of other times, like a couple other days of shooting, I've done that, and it just absolutely messes with my dot acquisition and ends up taking longer. And I did that, so I got my deceleration zone planned out correctly. Also notice I engaged this target basically while sprinting out. A couple of things to note is I do snap my head to look at it versus leading with the gun. So that's good. The placement of my deceleration zone here was not based off of like any marker or anything like that. It was strictly instinct. I couldn't figure out exactly where to stop, so it was basically as soon as I could see the target that you could only hit from right here. It was a very, very narrow window of area that you could actually engage the target. Another thing to point out is I had skipped one of the targets that I could have seen through this window and opted to shoot it while moving forwards, because that would end up being faster. So you see me engage the more difficult target slowly, and then blitz the open target. Here, I'm very proud of the way that I begin engaging. Well, first off, you can see my vision. Let's double check that actually. Yep, my vision snaps to the target that I need to move to instead of following it through the gun. That lets me fully complete engaging one target before I stop moving. So I've shaved a second right there. And I get the woo from Jess. So yeah, stage 1, I'm very proud of the way I approached this. For stage 1, I ended up being 3rd overall on the stage. I had 88.7% of first place's score. I had 17 alphas, 8 charlies. I did have 3 deltas, but I think 2 of those deltas were a very hard head box only target with a no shoot under it. So for all intents and purposes, 1 delta. Time of 18.03, hit factor of 6.8 with 87% of the points possible.
Are you ready? Stand by. Stand by. If you are finished unloading, so clear. If clear, hammer down, holster.
Stage 3 ended up being my highest performance of the entire match. I was third again overall with 94.2% of first place's score. I had 20 alphas, 7 charlies, 1 delta, a time of 20.06, a hit factor of 6.48, with 92% of points possible. So this tells me that I was going about as fast as I should. Any faster and I'd be sacrificing more charlies, any slower and it would be pointless to try to get more points. So 92% is about where I want to stay. This felt a little bit slower overall than stage 1 did, but my performance was overall better. I believe that had to do a lot with this target in particular. I ended up getting 2 alphas on this target, which was essentially a head box only target with a no shoot under it, a particularly annoying target to engage. I find my dot immediately, and a couple of things to note here. Find my dot immediately, engage the hard target in between the barrels first, so that I can engage the blatantly open target here as I am moving towards the set of 4 targets. Let's go ahead and look at that again. I opt to shoot this left to right. It does mean that I can't engage these targets off to the right as I'm entering it, but it is such a small movement zone anyway. And by choosing to engage their targets off to the left, the harder targets to the left before the easier targets to the right, it allows me later on to engage these targets off to the right as I'm backing up and moving. And as we know, the more that you shoot while you're moving, the faster your overall time is. So that was the reason my stage plan was as such. It ended up sacrificing a little bit of time on the entry to get a much, much better exit. And it's just a quick jaunt over to get the one target that you can only see in between these barrels from one spot. I almost overshoot it. I was able to move a lot farther while engaging these targets than I thought I would. So I ended up overshooting my spot on the ground, which was right alongside this kink in the shooting box. That was where in my stage plan I was going to stand in order to engage this target, but I overshot it a little bit. Ended up not really affecting much. It just means that my weight was way too forward. I basically nail my shooting spot to engage the rest of the targets through the port. I was slightly too far to the right though, so you'll see me as I engage them, I keep having to shift left. It didn't take too much time. It was just a slightly suboptimal placement of my deceleration zone. I think if I were to shoot it again, I would have made this X where I was going to start decelerating. That way I would be a little bit farther off to the left, but you only get one shot at it, so it is what it is. Yeah, I keep shifting over to the left. I skipped this target intentionally. I might discuss this with Lee later, but I think it was the correct call, because if I were to engage this target immediately and then engage the harder targets, it is, while technically shooting this one while moving, it makes it exceedingly difficult not to accidentally hit the wall and shoot and mess everything up, or not move far enough to the left and end up having to make an adjustment. So I think it's worth it to sacrifice just that slight bit of speed in order to get the more consistent jaunt over to the left. My shoe almost comes off. You can actually kind of see it. I slowed down so quickly, but I think that was the best way to shoot it, just because it was significantly safer. And the transition is extremely easy, so it's fairly simple to take it as the last target.
Are you ready? Stand by. Are you ready? Stand by.
Knock him down!
Stage 4 went acceptably, not the best. I ended up missing the bowling pin, the first bowling pin, so I had to backtrack and get it. Stage 4, I was 8th overall, 57.3% of total score, first place's score, 15 alphas, 3 charlies. I had a mic and a no shoot, and that's where my performance degradation came from. Time of 11.6 seconds, hit factor of 5.7 with 91% of the possible points. So I was shooting it about as fast as I should have. It's just that hiccup with the bowling pin kind of screwed me over as far as overall time is concerned. Also, I did not stick to my stage plan. I'll describe which targets that I engage differently as we go along, but by the time I got to the end of the stage, my mental was so out of it. It could have gone a lot smoother.
Are you ready? Stand by.
So I missed the bowling pin, have to get it. So if you saw, I engaged this target first. I was actually intending to engage this target pretty much last. My stage plan was to hit the bowling pin, and then as I began moving, engage this target, these targets, and then this target. Instead, I engage this target, these 2 targets, and then these 2 targets. That screwed with my mental completely, and I felt kind of lost through the rest of the stage and just kind of let it flow on autopilot, which ended up being pretty good, honestly. The rest of the stage just kind of fell into place. So I did have a makeup shot on this one. That's because I could see that it was a delta. So I just threw an extra one out there. Normally my vision isn't good enough to actually see it, but this target was so close that I could actually see that my first shot was indeed a delta. Very likely that I paused the video on that exact spot. So yeah, there was a makeup shot there, but it was very, very fast, so I didn't lose a whole lot of time there. Yeah, the second part of the stage, once I messed up my stage plan, ended up flowing pretty well. It didn't really kill my overall time. But by then I was just so aggravated that I decided to absolutely let these bowling pins have it. Heck with a bowling pin. Showed him who's boss. I think that actually ended up being about the same speed as slowing down and just hitting both of them. Just letting 5 rounds out as fast as possible and betting that they'd hit both of them.
Are you ready? Stand by.
There we go. Safe.
Safe. Are you ready? Stand by. show clear area.
It's not a Glock.
Range is clear.
For the speed shoot, it was pretty interesting. I had a stack of barrels in the middle, and it was both hands touching the barrels. Then you had to do strong hand, one shot only, and then reload, and then to the other side of the barrels, weak hand, one shot only. Virginia counts, so you couldn't make any makeup shots. You just kind of take whatever you got. My one unique stage plan that I had, didn't see anyone else do this, but what I did is when I reached for the gun one-handed, I opted to shoot with my strong hand, my right hand, off to the right side of the barrels first. I went ahead and got the magazine that I was going to reload to out of the magazine pouch and held it right up next to the gun to make the reload faster, which ended up working. I had a lightning fast reload. I also found my dot surprisingly quickly for one-handed. 3. It was absolutely unnecessary with this stage, but I found myself moving to the left out of habit, shooting while moving. Lightning fast reload. And then I forget that I am not shooting a Glock, and that a 1911 does in fact have a safety. So once I remember that unique little fact, I shoot the rest of the stage slowly, just to make sure that I got as many points as I could. For this stage, stage 5, or the speed shoot as we call it, I was 9th overall somehow, with 43.8% of first place's score. I had 5 alphas, 3 charlies, 2 deltas, time of 20 seconds, hit factor of only 1.9 with 82% of the possible points. So another debacle of a performance, but that's mostly because I forgot that my gun was a 1911 and instead of a Glock. So that's it. Had a great time tonight. I was very inconsistent. I performed well on stages 1 and 3. Did not perform too well on stages 2, 4, and 5. But I think I can point exactly what went wrong for stage 2. The first one, well, for starters, it was the first stage of the night, so I wasn't completely in the zone yet. But I didn't get much of a walkthrough, didn't have a stage plan, so it points to the importance of having a solid stage plan in your head before you approach it. For stage 4, I let it get into my head that I missed the first bowling pin, and that made my stage plan fall apart. I recovered from it pretty acceptably. Did take out my anger on the last set of bowling pins, but that points to needing to slow down a little bit and give a bit more respect to the harder targets. For stages 1 and 3, my training really kicked in, and I was able to perform very well there. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.